Welcome back to Worlds 2022. Now EDG qualify for quarters after an exciting day 5 of groups, and you just caught a recap of their matches against Fnatic and Cloud9, brought to you by OnePlus. But here we are, 2 games left to go in Group B, and let's refresh on where the teams stand. We've already decided which 2 teams are exiting the group stage here in Group B. It will be JDG and DWG KIA. You'll notice 5-0, quite the record for JDG, but things aren't locked up just yet. Here's the things you need to know. For Evil Geniuses, they can play spoiler to DWG KIA's chances of a first place seed by winning here. But otherwise, it would take DWG winning this game and their next game against JDG to force a tiebreaker, which we would play out at the end of the day, and that would determine who gets first and who gets second.
Sounds good to me.
Of the group. All right, so if you're a fan of games and tiebreaker games at that to decide 1 and 2, then you're an EG fan in this game. So let's talk about how they can get it done, because last time around, it didn't go their way.
Ooh, this is going to be a tough one.
Oh, you didn't expect me to hit you with that.
I did not expect that at all.
You just wanted it to happen.
Oh,
now you got to tell me how it happens, my friend.
I think it's probably just based off of just straight front-to-back team fighting, scaling, all that. I will say that what they ended up playing at the beginning of the day was fun, and it was based off of what worked for them domestically. Like the Lucian Nami was a good hit. Really, we got to see the best out of Kaori. So at this point, even if I want them to play a simpler straight front-to-back composition, it's just working with what they have been playing regardless. So it's hard. I will say, play what you're best at. And that looks like Lucian Nami, so probably end up going for that.
Yeah.
So what you would say is don't lock in singed mid.
No, I would say that. I would say 100% do that.
You're starting to speak my language, actually. Maybe I go back
that
on my words.
Good to me.
Maybe I go back on my words.
That sounds like the answer.
Hey. One Mr. Jojopyun, a.k.a. Jojopyun, tweeted out that he's playing singed in this game.
He's made the declaration. We'll see if the coaches allow him to do it. I don't even know if coaches are aware he tweeted out. That's the thing I'm worried about. You think he just snap takes it, pick 3?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, coach.
Or
you said Soraka? Oh, my bad, S-champ.
Okay.
Oh,
or convince your team, hey, Lehens makes it a strong support pick.
I was going to say.
Are you saying you can't play Singed?
Flex it between mid and support?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's going to play
top lane to impact. Like I'm saying.
Mind games.
3-way flex.
Okay, so now let me throw things over into the DWG court. If you are staring down the barrel of a possible singed flex pick, Chronicler, what are you thinking? What are you doing? What's the answer? I see you shaking in your boots.
I don't think DWG is particularly bothered, personally. I don't know what you're expecting here of me, Dash. You're setting me up to fail because DWG themselves have been very happy to opt into really creative drafts. They've been the teams that have put forward so many different types of strategies, tried to win with bot lane, cheese picks. It's really hard to, I think, throw this team off. And I know that there's LCK teams on the record as well saying playing DWG in a best of 5 is a nightmare because they will just do very weird things. So I don't think from a gameplay perspective.
Rip the dream.
Rip it.
Yeah, it's
Rip
bad.
the dream.
The singed mid is the way to go.
Do
I want to see it? Nevertheless.
You know, that fan sign there goes directly counter to don't let your dreams become memes, because now it's a meme. And with that, EG is ready to do battle against DWG KIA, and Freak, Azael, and Dagda are here to walk us through it.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Castle Desk. We have 2 or 3 games left to play. EG, of course, could end their group stage 2 and 4, and it would lock in the #1 seed for JDG coming out of the group. DWG could no longer catch them at the very end. EG could end on a win, and the LPL could be happy with a first seed. Or if DWG wins, it means that the 6th game of the day is a battle for first. DWG can force a tiebreak, play game 7, and take first themselves.
I will say, historically, LCS, once the games don't matter, we're already eliminated, really powers up. You know, that's when Other Thieves took down EDG last year, so We'll see if they can do it.
As an LPL man, I'm all for that. You take out Damwon for us now, we'd be very appreciative. We don't have to deal with that potential later on, because Damwon have looked a little bit scary, I will say, at Worlds 2022.
Yeah, Damwon is a really, really strong team. You know, obviously, I think the meta suits them quite well, which is one of the big reasons that I think people have them power ranked quite highly, despite the fact, you know, that they weren't as dominant in the LCK. You know, bringing back farming junglers, bringing back things like the Graves really does suit Canyon. And when ShowMaker is on playmakers, this guy is a different beast.
Well, but does expand away from Inspired, give it enough respect here as we look at the second ban out of EG, and what they value here in this one.
I mean, things like the Kalista, the Aatrox, everything like that still open available. So I imagine we'll see a few bans toss that direction, and then it becomes a case of, well, do you want to get rid of Graves for Canyon? Well, the Caitlyn away from deokdam as well, an LCK special that's kind of starting to plague a little bit of the ban phases as we come into Worlds.
I wouldn't be shocked to see Inspired taking the Graves himself also. You know, he is a jungler that really likes to play the farm-heavy style. So if it is left open, it won't actually be Damwon going to be banning that one away. It'll be interesting to see where exactly EG wants to go. I do think comfort for them is more just playing scaling bot and focusing more heavily on mid, playing more heavily for jungler, you know, kind of playing around that duo. But they did have a great Kalista game earlier today, obviously against G2, so they might look to replicate that success.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of like Jojo going towards the set, trying to set up for Inspired, where he can kind of facilitate more for the jungle Kaori. But I kind of want to see Jojo and get a little bit more of an instinct as to what he can actually do, because it feels like he's kind of been tied down a little bit, trying to play these more facilitator champions. I really want to see what happens when he's able to get out, start to roam around the map, and take some of the learnings that he had from MSI, where he talks about, look, I have now got to see what I can do as a mid laner and how much of an impact I can have on the map. Give Jojo the opportunity to show it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would be fun to see him back on a carry, but at the same time, I think one of the big things that Jojo did learn is that, you know, sometimes the better way to win is just playing for his team, right? And he did take a little bit of a step back. When you think about his play throughout the summer split in LCS, he was actually less lane dominant than he was pre-MSI in spring, but it was more because he was playing towards facilitating his teammates, playing picks where he didn't always have to dominate in lane. And it's going to be Lucian Nami for EG, so does like a Draven or a really aggressive counter just kind of get slammed down?
Yeah, that's where I'm a little bit worried here, because not only can you take the counter pick here for deokdam and that bot side, but also the fact that Nuguri can take the Aatrox. I mean, Nuguri has been absolutely insane on this top side, plus the fact as well, we've kind of seen Impact struggle in the Aatrox matchups domestically as well. So, I mean, if I'm favoring one side, it'd be Nuguri on the top end.
I mean, honestly, it might just be the Sejuani run back, right? Earlier today, we saw him, the last second pivot over towards the Aatrox.
You know what that means? Fiora.
The least likely pick for Impact of all time. Impact is for sure playing a tank, I feel like, in this. I don't think... Part of the problem is a lot of his niche picks that are really strong are actually quite poor into Aatrox. Yeah. GP often really struggles early into Aatrox. Shen, it's actually a really bad matchup, you know, for Shen as well. When you're thinking about all the other tanks, Aatrox kind of beats those too. So it does become tricky. I wouldn't be surprised if we just saw like a Gwen or something, to be honest, from Impact. But we'll have to find it out because, yeah, Draven coming through, it's going to be Lucian Nami unless they're doing a crazy pivot towards like Lucian mid, but I can't see that happening. So it's going to be a scary bot side already for EG.
And that's why I wasn't the biggest fan of the Lucian pick, right? Because now, as you say, you've got the counter pick there and the Draven. You've kind of given over a lot of power on that top side. So I want to see now if they can try and prioritize something in the jungle for Inspired as well. But this is where I need to see them kind of have some answer for the fact that they've given across these two big power picks towards Damwon King.
Are we going to get it? The famous Champions Q, Jojo singed. Last chance for us to see it coming through. He's thinking about it.
So every single pick here, I think, has gone to the last second. Every single team in both cases has taken as long as possible. 3, 2, 1. Akali is blocked for Jojopyun.
Hey, in his face.
But Akali could flex top for Impact if he gets singed after all. What if?
No.
No, it's not happening.
For starters, no.
For starters, no.
Akali, really exciting pick. You know, you wanted Jojo to have a little bit more agency, something he could get aggressive on. You know, this is going to be that for him. But Renata would make a lot of sense here. You know, the Renata ulti, very, very strong as a duo as well with that Draven. It's a lot of power down there for deokdam and Kellin. And we'll have to see, you know, where they're going to start focusing those bans. You begin to throw more and more towards Inspired. Try to take your jungle on 4, really pinch the pool of Inspired. Or just ban away more comfort for Impact. You know, ban away a couple of tanks, try to put him in a carry versus carry matchup that he's likely not really going to be ready for.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm EG, I definitely want to try and target ShowMaker, try and get these picks away that can actually like push in and help out on that bottom side, right? Because if you start to have mid-prio and you've got the Renata Draven, it sets you up so well to play aggressive on this bottom side, and especially when you've got the melee mid, it makes it very difficult to actually try and control that lane. So I like that they're focusing ShowMaker at the moment, and I think this is where we'll have to see. I mean, you still got the Sylas and stuff there for ShowMaker and kind of enter into the melee versus melee, but at least trying to get rid of some of these big control mates here as well could work out well.
No time taken down on the picks and bans right now. They do need engage on the EG side. Ornn still up. Hecarim could have been an option, realistically. As Via going to drop off as fighter junglers out of Inspired. Of course, the Maokai is already gone. Sejuani was available. If he wants to play tank jungler, he certainly can. Sej's engage is okay. We can still have the angle at just full tank for Impact.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely go to it, but it's always going to be a little bit tough. And I think the composition may just demand it regardless, because they do kind of need some sort of engage here. And that is going to be the difficulty. You know, taking away the Hecarim means it's harder to bring that engage in from the jungle here for Inspired. And they could take it for jungle and just really pinch the pool, which I do think is actually pretty smart. So they will do that. Double jungle ban plus a pinch, which I just think is very intelligent, because this could have gone both jungle or top here for EG. I do think you could look towards Trundle and like Ornn, something along those lines if you want. Just go tank top, go Trundle as an answer for the Sejuani, and hope that you can really set that up. To me, it makes the most sense. Yes, it's a bad matchup into Aatrox, but I think it rounds out the composition well. And I do think it helps to really set up a lot of these picks.
Yeah, I think you just got to take the L here. There isn't really any good matchup for Impact in the top side, and realistically you fall a little bit behind as the Ornn. It doesn't matter too much, and I agree with the Trundle. I think the Trundle will be your best pick here, right? Not only is it good at taking away a lot of the stats from Sejuani, but also the fact that you can try and put these pillars down on the bot side, make both the Draven and the Renata very vulnerable here.
It's not a good Rammus game, sorry guys.
I mean, Trundle makes the most sense, but they're just actually going Bel'Veth. Okay, so we saw it from Blabber yesterday after they were knocked out. Now we're seeing it here from Inspired after he has been knocked out. Is going to be, of course, a higher damage pick here. But Taliyah feels like such an obvious answer for ShowMaker. You know, just looking at his champion pool and the ability to play up towards the sides, try to get Nuguri or the Draven way ahead. There's a lot of dashes on this team as well. Ornn, Bel'Veth, Akali, Lucian all play those dashes, but instead he goes to Sylas. Really thought he was going to go for it.
Yeah, I thought we would see the Taliyah come through, especially, I mean, just the fact that if you're Dom 1, you can look at this and go, oh, there's a Bel'Veth. Well, we can take control of top side, make it really difficult to play for Rift Heralds, and making sure that you just don't really have an opportunity as EG to snowball this one and make sure that you're in a decent spot. So I think for Dom 1, you still have a decent amount of control here, though, like really strong mid jungle and at least a really strong skirmishing on the top side with the triple melee there. So there's still opportunities here for Dom 1 to make sure that EG are uncomfortable when we get to that 8-minute mark.
Absolutely, and it does help to supplement their engage, because right now you mostly just have Sejuani ult, but now you have the stolen Ornn ultis there as an option, stolen Nami ulti, you have the Lucian obviously for some poke, plus Akali, of course, really great in those all-in, so some decent ultimates there for ShowMaker to steal, and I think this sets him up better for the 1v1 than something like the Taliyah would have been. The Taliyah would have been more kind of a denial pick, you know, shutting down some of the playmaking from a lot of these picks for EG and playing towards those side lanes. But of course, if you can get that advantage in the 1v1, that can allow you to play through sides just as well.
I'm really curious to see what Inspired's builds is going to be this game, though, because I'd actually prefer, like we've seen a lot of the shield bow build come through. I'd prefer to see him go for Blade of the Rune King into Sunfire Aegis, because this is something that Kanavi actually does a lot over in the LPL. And when I just look at the amount of CC that's going to be coming through on Dom 1 side, he needs that survivability in team fights. Otherwise, he just runs the risk of between like Nuguri, ShowMaker, and deokdam just getting blown up immediately when he goes into fights.
Well, we are going to be on to the Rift for Evil Genius's last game of the World Championship. Is going to be a single game they've won. Will they find their second? In so doing, they will lock Dom 1 into second place in the group. But of course, the fate is still in their hands for the LCK third seed. A win here, a win next game, and then a tie break will get them first, following in T1's footsteps.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Gonna be a 1-1, really important win here for Dom 1, as you're saying. You know, really wanting to get first place. I think first place in groups is so ridiculously important this year, because there are so many beastly teams that you could run into in quarters that it could just be a death sentence, right? Being able to actually get first really does up your chances of getting to semis and beyond. Because when you're thinking about the very top level teams in this event, you know, you're really wanting to dodge teams like Gen G, you know, JDG, you know, Rogue obviously having a great week 1 as well. So a lot of these teams are going to be very, very frightening.
Especially for Damwon as well, because I know a lot of people, myself included, had Damwon as kind of their dark horse of the tournament, right? It looked like this were a team where the meta was going to start to fit them. We started to see Canyon bringing out more of the carries, Nuguri coming back in with carries in the top side, and even just ShowMaker having these playmaking abilities from the mid lane. This could have been this is a very scary meta to be facing up against Damwon. So coming out in first place as well would kind of give a lot of hope to people that are rallying behind this team.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is, we've seen it so many times. You finish second in this group as Damwon, you could just run smack dab into Genji, be out in quarters, right? And it's like, you get those regional kills very frequently, and oftentimes, you know, when a team, you know, from their own region, even if they're strong in the meta, runs up to a team that has kind of been their checkmate, so to speak, you know, regionally, they know the team so well, it can be very difficult to come up with a plan to beat a team that is that familiar with you. So very, very important here. EG, of course, playing for pride, trying to pick up a second win. You know, I do think, though EG only has 1 win thus far, you know, I have been pretty impressed overall with their team. Obviously, some difficult circumstances. You're not playing with Danny, first team All-Pro AD from the LCS. You know, Kaori coming in, he's been with them for a bit now, but only came in, played his first ever LCS game, literally in Chicago at finals. Had 5 total LCS games to his name before coming to Worlds and having to play against people like deokdam and having to play against some of the very best bot laners in the entire world. I think EG has, at the very least, been competitive in their games. And we've seen development, I think, amongst some of these other players, you know, quite obviously.
And it's also the fact that they've just been so good at understanding how they can play to win conditions, how they can play around the map, right? And it's why every time I see EG on Summoner's Rift, I'm like, they can take games off of anyone in this group. And especially the one against JDG, right? They pushed JDG to their limits. It was very close to being an EG win. So this is a squad that up against Damwon can definitely cause the upset here. And it feels like, at least with the composition that they have, like decent team fighting, the ability to try and play around the spot side, get Kaori and Vulcan into position, that this could be a way that they could try and push this back against Damwon.
But to take the other side of it as well, you know, we saw what happens when the side lanes kind of collapse for EG. You know, very frequently, it's going to be an almost impossible game if your side lanes are losing. And when you're looking at top lane, Nuguri against Impact, plus, you know, the Aatrox into a tank, that is that kind of counter matchup in top lane. You have the Draven as the counter pick into Lucian in bot lane as well. So that really is the difficulty, is that you're kind of faced with these 2 losing lanes by default here before even bringing in player skill into the equation. So that's where there's a lot of pressure on Inspired to really be able to kind of come in and affect these lanes and try to put them in a good spot, because we see how it looks earlier today against JDG when the side lanes start to lose early.
But it does feel like if there's a jungler to do it for EG, it's Inspired, right? This guy has been absolutely incredible at Worlds at the moment. I've been very impressed with his ability to get these early leads, and he's going to have to do it again. It's going to be an uphill battle, but with the way Inspired has been playing, it definitely feels like he's capable of getting these leads for EG.
No, he really is, and I think it's why he, you know, they keep putting him on damage champions, even though he's trying stuff out. The Fiddlesticks had a good start, right? 2-0, you know, forced to cleanse and whatnot, but it does feel like the 2 best players for the squad have been Inspired and Vulcan. And Vulcan, you know, who's been laning with an Academy player, right? Like, you know, all realistic, right? He's playing with an Academy AD carry who got brought up for circumstances and still looked very good. Inspired just straight up looks incredible and is so often almost the carry force for EG here. And yeah, it's like, hey, if this team does grow, right? Rookie year for Jojopyun, literally rookie year for you know, Kaori, at least in North America functionally. It's like, well, there's some pretty important aspects here that still have some growing to do.
But I think the thing is, like, even though these are rookie players, the understanding that they have of, like, the timers that they can work with on the map, how to play off lane states, how to play off wave states, even just the fact, like, these are one of the teams that I look and go, okay, they are willing to actually cross-map for things like Dragon and do a very successful job at it. And we've seen even more veteran players really struggle with that. Like, we saw it yesterday from a couple of the teams as well. So the fact that you have these guys in their rookie split, rookie year, learning and coming on in heaps and bounds over the course of this tournament, I'm very excited to see what they can do. And I really hope EG does stick with these guys, because they really do look impressive.
They do look impressive, but of course we are paused this game as we look to address what's going on. That one, I'm going to hand it over to the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Freak. An unfortunate game pause here. League officials are investigating, as it does seem to be an issue on Damwon's side of the table. We'll keep you updated as updates come to us. But I got good news for you all. We've got Chronicler here in the mouse ears, and he has a whole
Mouse ears?
These are bear ears.
These are bear ears.
Sorry,
But
definitely
hold
bear
up.
ears.
There we
Oh my
go.
God,
Yeah,
getting it right
so
now.
sorry, yeah. Now he's wearing mouse ears, and I believe you
Insensitive
came
as hell.
prepared with a whole slew of mouse facts for us.
Mouse facts. No, I got nothing.
Wait, EDG mouse or
Yeah,
actual, like-
ooh.
That's a good one.
That's a throwback.
Mouse fact.
You're putting me on the spot twice.
surprised-
I can't deliver in either of
Do you
them.
have any bear facts? Turn that back around. You got any bear facts? I'm disappointed.
I will
I'm
give you an
disappointed.
EDG mouse back.
Okay.
He surprisingly speaks English. I remember talking in a green room, and he just like caught up in everything I said. I was like, wait a minute.
Boom, gotcha.
How long did you?
I have another EDG
Hear what I
mouse
was
fact.
Let's
That has
go.
nothing
More
to do with
EDG
this
mouse
match.
facts.
But
We'll get to this in a
EDG
moment.
Mouse was supposed to play support, and he was the support that Mako actually
remember that.
replaced in
Ooh.
2015.
I remember that.
And
yeah.
then he became a top laner.
Wild.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wild. And then Mako with
the
the
best.
team.
And
Oh my goodness.
now
Not
Mako is
the
one of the
best.
best
yeah,
supports
one of
in
the
the
winningest
world.
swords, one of the best supports in the world. Crossed, what was it, over 600 assists just the other day?
Ooh.
At Worlds alone did Mako with some pop-off performances as EDG finished second place in their groups. But okay, let's come back to EG versus Damwon Kia. Of course, as we have mentioned for Evil Geniuses, they are effectively eliminated from the tournament, but they would love to exit with a win over Damwon Kia of all teams, Chronicler.
And there's two things that stand out to me here. One is deokdam Draven, which I've been, I wasn't necessarily down on deokdam coming in, but I think that he's had an incredibly good tournament. I think that him and Kellin, to me, have been the big surprises for this roster. And the amount of respect that has been paid by Damwon Kia, in my opinion, correctly identifying that it's inspired or bust, and throwing 4 bans straight his way.
And my takeaway is I was promised a Singed game.
Where is it?
Yeah.
I feel
here.
lied to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason for the pause. I feel like there was an issue
Damwon,
in the
they're
pick
also
and
like, this
ban.
destroys trust. We were
Yeah.
lied to as well.
Yes.
We saw the tweet. We had an expectation.
Unfortunate.
Okay, so we didn't get the Singed, but we did get the return to the Bel'Veth of all
Yeah.
things. How do we feel about that?
I mean, it's interesting because you see the Sedge on the other side, right?
Yep.
You see the bans, which Chronicler already mentioned, against Inspired. You also do see them returning to the Lucian Nami, which I think is interesting because it is still a lane that you absolutely need to get ahead in, right? So like they're looking to hopefully use Bel'Veth to snowball. Now, again, I can't reiterate enough, whenever Bel'Veth is in the game, it makes Herald such an important objective, both Rift Heralds, because of the way she can just take over an entire side of the map by dropping Herald with the fish. It ends up like just obliterating turrets. So it's kind of an interesting showing from EG. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to play, I think.
What I'm worried about for EG, as much as I like that they've gone for priority in the bot side of the map, it will be a lot tougher, specifically on top. Because the reason why we haven't seen as much Ornn, unless Aatrox is banned away, is that matchup is not great. You're not going to have a good time as Ornn. You're going to get shoved in. And I think that Impact might be able to withstand that pressure. But it will be very tough to then also make a play towards the Herald. And I do think that that's what you need to do as EG.
I do want to double down, though, on both of those points. For me, I'm very happy to see the Lucian grabbed up early. It does definitely see, it is Kaori's best pick, the one he seems the most comfortable on up to this point, and that Lucian Nami is what we saw succeed earlier in the day. But then to your point about Ornn, particularly when we couple that with our conversation about Western teams and what they're bringing out into the top lane, I would almost always prefer them to index into a quote-unquote losing matchup, but that can still scale to be relevant in team fights late due to both utility and then eventually outscaling power. That's just my personal preference when it comes to North American teams, and so I am a fan of it, even though you are picking it into the face of an Aatrox.
What do you got, Chronicler?
There's not, with how lopsided a lot of the lane matchups have been, there's just no winning. Because either you pick a carry matchup, and then you need to really overperform, or it's not working, or you pick a tank, and then
you lose like you're supposed to lose, but maybe find relevancy later. That's the thing for me. You still have the option.
Well, then I go back to yesterday, that Maokai versus Gangplank, and that's what pops in my head. So that's what I'm worried about. That's the whole issue here, is that I don't know if there's a perfect plan. I like what EG have done for themselves, though. And I
but you get solo kill level 5, you go next fast, right? Like, you know.
I don't want that.
All right.
Well,
Raz,
and from what we've seen from the past 2 days is that teams, especially with a Thresh being picked out, not happening this game, but in general, if you have first push, it's really hard to be able to fight out into enemy vision. And so in this game, very similar example, Aatrox and Draven Renata on both side lanes. I just feel like Damon's going to be able to have first push and set up for objectives initially. And it's just going to be so hard for Evil Geniuses to be able to get the team fight that they want.
Yeah, another thing I do want to bring up, just because we were talking about two junglers in Canyon and Kanavi who both can kind of carry on things like the Graves, but then also facilitate the rest of their team.
Yeah.
Sejuani here, I think, is a really interesting choice for Damwon specifically, and I'm very curious to see what Canyon is able to do in this game, because obviously, like you pointed out, Chronicler, they identified as Inspired as the player that they absolutely wanted to target. They wanted to get him off of these picks where it would be easier for him to affect his lanes. And then, you know, Canyon is on the Sejuani where he can make plays with his lanes constantly. And as we saw, I mean, she's no slouch to doing damage either.
No, exactly. And especially with the setup of a Sylas and an Aatrox, I think there are more than enough tools. Also, one final shout out to my boy Kellin, who I think, on specifically this Renata, I'm going to keep giving Kellin love. It's been a tough split, guys. Also, on an unrelated note, Grizzly Bears possess a biting force of over 1,200 PSI, which is enough to crush a bowling ball or an iron skillet. I just needed a little bit of time
bear fact.
to come up
There
with that
we go.
bear fact.
Bear fact.
Shout out to Canyon, the polar bear himself.
Honestly,
Yeah,
12,
I was gonna say.
or
knew that.
1,200 pounds per square inch. That's
At the top of it. Yeah, I didn't know what that meant. I'm
just
glad you're here.
wrote PSI.
I'm not from...
He
I
went
feel
for
like
it.
since we have the time, you should explain, because maybe like people who don't watch LCK or don't watch
Hold on,
LCK
before
maybe
you
don't
explain,
know.
I just want to give one quick update. We have identified that it is a software issue on the side of Damwon KIA. Tournament officials still investigating, still resolving the issue, but we have at least identified the brand of issue that it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, there's not that much to it. He looks like a polar bear. There's a couple of, I think, LCK memes. We had the Donut Churros one with Gen G, where it's like the first part of their names. We have Jungle King, Mid King, which was, you know, the players of Damwon KIA leading respectively in solo queue and always topping the ladder. But when it comes to people like Deft or Canyon,
Or Emperor,
yeah.
if anyone remembers him. Everyone called him a bull terrier.
So I'm going to give you a moment to dive back into the recesses of your brain and drudge up another bear fact, or maybe a mouse fact, if you want.
Okay,
and in the meantime, I want to push us back into that top lane. Oh, never mind. I'm being told that I can toss back to the casters and we're back in a game. So everyone, please enjoy.
Thank you, Dash. We are here and ready to go. I have a League of Legends fact, okay? Oh. Evil Geniuses are undefeated with a gold lead at 15 in the group stage here.
Wow.
So in 14 minutes, if they're ahead in gold, they're definitely going to win.
They're only 13 and a half minutes away from winning the game, is what you're telling me.
They're also undefeated when they play Akali. So, you know, maybe we've got this, you know?
Undefeated when we take a tier 2.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are 3 pretty neat facts there.
All right, let's see if they can get all 3 and then still lose. But I like what happened there, by the way. This was actually pretty smart. There was a ward watching the invade, Inspired with a ward over the wall, had a chance to go for a smite steal. Canyon well-timed his last attack with the smite, so 1 camp each, as now Sejuani is on the bottom side, and Bel'Veth going to keep farming.
But it's 1 camp taken away from the enemy jungle, right? Just starting enemy Raptors there instead of just 50-50 on the smite. He claims the Raptors, goes back to his own Raptors, so he's already on his 3rd camp here quite quickly. And it's going to be a reasonable spot. We'll have to see how these EG side lanes can hold on. That is what I'm most worried about here in the early stages. Going up against this Draven, plus Renata, very, very scary. Nuguri up on this top side. Going to be having a really good time against Impact's Ornn. But if they can hold on, if they can wait to find some angles here with Inspired, there's always a possibility.
Yeah, that's what I'm keeping my eyes on. The wave on bot side hasn't crashed yet, and even when you look at where Canyon's positioned, right, it was moving back towards the top side, but now should start to creep down onto the spot end of things just to make sure that deokdam and Kellin can get this wave crashed without any sort of issues from Inspired.
ShowMaker lands the double Q as well. This is actually huge. Jojopyun is pretty much out of regen already. That is actually a ton of power gain. Canyon finishes up his bottom side of the map. He knows there's a Krugs camp up, and he can play for top side now as well. Another pretty heavy trade, Jojo. Regening what he can. ShowMaker now out of potions.
Yeah, ShowMaker out of potions there. This is going to be a kind of a battle for him to actually get this pushed in as fast as he can, but Canyon's heading up towards top side. This Sejuani plus double melee solo laners, which is that dreaded combo up on the top side. But Inspired coming out here looking to potentially contest at this.
Both have smite.
I mean, it's Canyon's if he wants it. I think they must know. Yeah, there's question marks on that brush where ShowMaker was actually recalling, so not going to look to actually contest that. And Inspired isn't even sure if there's 2 people at his blue buff because they didn't see ShowMaker finish that recall.
Yeah, that's the value of recalling in a brush right now, so pretty smart stuff. He's going to burn his TP, so now they know that he can't be there, so that's in fact Inspired walking all the way up, casting up the minimap, but Bluebuff has already taken Canyon. Gets enough done with the head start, he smites it, and that is, hey, Raptor took on one side, Blue taken on the other is an advantage for DWG KIA, and now Jojo has to be careful, does not get queued on, dodges most of the W, stays alive.
But this has been really good from Canyon so far, right? He's playing off the fact that they had pushed for ShowMaker mid, Nuguri and top.
Oh my
trade.
God. Yeah, I mean, the man has so much damage, rank W, I'm pretty sure, lands all the autos in that trade. Ooh, nice pull back though. Bubble's gonna land, duck them. He's low. First blood for EG. He's burning, but he's bailing out. First blood to Kaori.
EG striking the 2v2. Kaori with the kill there. Gets first blood, and they're going to be able to push in this wave here as well. That is massive for EG. It's even +2 summoners. Kaori didn't spend a single one, and deokdam plus Kellin spent both.
It's such a big win, and the fact now that you can get control of this bot side, you still have Inspired that's able to play down here. You can start to look for things like Dragon. That's such a massive win, and you'll see here, Kellin flashes forward, gets the handshake, but Kaori's just free-hitting on deokdam the whole time, knowing he can get the kill.
Exactly, that's the problem here about when you're all-inning onto the support. Vulcan even taunting there when he realizes he's made it out. But up on the top side, things looking a little bit grim for him. Back, he does have his TP, so he's going to have to farm this wave and then just TP back. But I mean, man, he is not getting any of this farm. Already down 2 full waves.
But Impact knows that, look, even if this goes completely askew, if we can get the rest of the map in our favor, we should be in a relatively okay spot. So now the big question for me is, like, how can EG try to power through on this bottom side? And it feels like trying to get Kaori this push on bot end, then immediately start to turn over towards Dragons, try to snowball this lead enough. So then, although Ornn's behind, it won't play a massive factor come the mid game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bel'Veth is one of those champions that can actually solo up the Dragons relatively quickly, but we can see Inspired on the minimap is actually in that side brush. There are some question mark things down there, so Dom may be available.
Level 6 advantage, but Jojo going to be far enough away that ShowMaker will not find the all-in yet. This wave will give Jojo 6, but safely till he gets the ulti, I imagine. Will be the case there. Inspired in the fog here. Shouldn't have been spotted going in. No summoners, but Drake's already being started. Sylas on the way down as well. This is just getting a Drake, and even though Inspired's here, it doesn't matter. They're going to play for the objective.
Yeah, it should be Dom once. You can see Jojo still in mid. Inspired just really waiting a long time for this. Was hoping to get some sort of a over-aggressive move from Damwon. They have not looked for it just yet, but Canyon is coming down. The question is, can they win this 3v3? Canyon is coming around, and Inspired would be waiting. Remember, no sums.
Inspired hides the sweeper, and he hides the sweeper.
It.
On the deokdam, they gotta go. He gets the knockup, jumps on in, bubble. That'll be the first kill, post bailout. Kaori gets the kill. Needs to do knockup. It's up in 5 seconds.
EG playing this out so damn well. The dodge on the sweeper there as Kellin steps forward, trying to sweep him out. But again, ShowMaker getting aggressive here.
Ults for it too, Jojo's at half HP. But won't get anything more done right there. CS pretty much equal now in the mid lane, and it's 2-0 from the bot.
That was so well orchestrated by EG. You get Inspired, who's able to hide, but also the way that these two mid laners have been playing on their lanes has been really impressive. Look at where Jojo is. He showed that he moved top, so for DK, they think that the play is not happening on bot side, but because of that, Inspired manages to sneak in, and they get this great play on the bottom end. They're mind gaming Damwon so well.
I know, it's just the amount of patience shown there by EG was incredible. Inspired waiting a long time for that play, expecting that they would be coming down. And when he didn't contest on the Dragon, I think the read from Damwon is, okay, he's got to be doing his topside camps, but let's make sure we'll sweep out the pit. We'll see that he's not in the area, but just so well played. Canyon could be in a little bit of trouble here.
Level 6 finds the knockup. I mean, Canyon's always out, cues the wall, and Bel'Veth can't do anything about the fun as well. So there's the blast plant, there's away. And yeah, Canyon realizing, okay, your top set is up. Great, that's some free money. Q's not going to land on the right target. Kaori cannot quite get the aim going, but handshake keeps him safe. Kellin takes the bad end of that trade.
Yeah, still nicely traded out there by Vulcan, and EG will have to push on this bottom side here. They're going to have to go back to base, and critically, we haven't even touched on it. You know, deokdam dying twice already means his stacks are going to be set so far behind on the Draven, so that cash in that you're always looking for really will be put so far down.
And also the fact that you've now got this massive Lucian that you can play around these early skirmishes for, right? You're going to get to crash these 2 waves, you reset, you can look to move up towards Rift Tower, but they're a little bit slow off that, and you can see immediately Canyon's like, cool, if you guys are going to stick around for these plates on bot side, I'm going to take Rift Tower, so you don't have that advantage that you can try and garner through the Bel'Veth.
I mean, it's just going to be this split map game, right? Very clearly, topside is that point of power for Dom1. Play towards Nuguri, and try to take away this Herald, try to snowball the game through this Aatrox, really make him that danger. Kaori, about 1,300 gold or so ahead in the individual 1v1 against this Draven, which is massive. And Draven, again, losing those stacks. Every stack is worth 2.5 gold when you do get the cash in. You lose 75% on death. And he's only at 50 stacks right now. He'd be way up, but it's a 4-man from EG heading towards bot here. They could be in trouble.
Ward. They know it's 4v2. They've got the ward there. Nuguri, no TP. Ulti's going to land bubbles there as well. Cleanses it. A great handshake. Buys a ton. Vulcan drops. And they're not going to get anything yet. Finally coming in, but it's already the double kill. And he gets not quite bailed out, but a 4v2 dive goes 3-1 to Dom1 KIA.
It's a disaster for EG. You know they want more top.
Gonna find a whole lot more, Stun to buy some time. He's gonna get the ulti on for the knockup, but the turret, he switches aggro. Canyon stays alive. Impact might be a combo away from dying, cannot get his cannon. Will lose a turret plate, maybe stays alive, but barely with his life.
Yeah, EG, such an overforce on that dive. They completely bungled it on bot side. It was just a really smart ulti from deokdam, actually clearing out the wave before they could get that, and then they decided to make the play happen anyway. But as Vulcan walked through, it's a great handshake from Kellin, clapping them together, setting it up. They decided to try to force it anyway, but that pulls the Draven right back into the game. He was 1,300 gold behind. He gets 2 kills, gets the cash-ins. He's only a couple hundred gold down now, and top lane is dominating.
And this is where it starts to become an issue now that you haven't got these objectives for EG, especially Canyon moving down towards this bottom side. He wants to make his presence known with this Rift Herald.
While he goes on a ward though, doesn't know it was there, but now with the control ward does, goes, okay, never mind. Play not to be made.
And this is where I really wanted to see EG trying to use Kaori and Vulcan's presence on this bot side to actually rotate them around the map. Like, look for the Rift Heralds. Now, they do end up getting 3 of these plates on bottom side, but the fact that your Bel'Veth is so good with the likes of the Rift Herald, the fact you haven't got any of these dragons, now you've got deokdam back in the game, it feels like Dom1 kind of are back in the driver's seat. The early game for DK has been absolutely incredible all throughout Worlds, and now we're starting to see them claw this one back as well.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, with the experience advantage that deokdam has as well, you know, is up just hit level 7 is Kaori, and deokdam's about 75%, 70% or whatever through that level. So a significant experience advantage. It does have the double kill, you know, working in towards what will be Shieldbow as that first mythic, and going to be in a pretty good spot when that comes through. Jojo in trouble now.
Well, wanted to go for something, doesn't go for it. Ulti not going to be useful while he's stealth, so saves the cooldown. Jojo will have to be safe next 20.
It's just about getting presence mid though, because Dragon is up, and they want to see if they can try and rotate over that. Inspired, spotted on the ward.
Oh, they're going to try. Ulti over the wall, beautifully done. Stun's going to land. No, a minion blocks the hook.
I mean, get down, Mr. President. The minion will block that, but with the problem now for Impact on the top side, with Jojo forced the reset, definitely feels like you've got good control here for DK, as they will put down the Rift Herald in mid, getting ShowMaker first turret, and so much gold into his back pocket.
Yeah, that's going to be full first tower there. ShowMaker going to be way ahead in that individual 1v1. They're going to get the charge on the second tower, and they can even move down towards Dragon here as well, because without any mid-prio, Inspired was never able to start it up.
Bubble, and a Culling is still going to be decent damage. Kellin will survive it. Walks over to his teammate to get Guardian to pop, then presses E. Shields the last half of the damage. Canyon here, no ulti. That's going to be called easily. Inspired was around, but there's no play.
But and as everyone starts to back away, like, this is where Dom1 has been so crucial, right? They're 100% first towers in every single one of their games. They're tied first for Dragons per game, tied first for Herald percent as well. Dom1 have been so good at finding these objectives and using that to snowball their leads. And even though we saw EG get this control in the early stages, that pressure for Dom1 is starting to come in clutch for them again once more.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's be honest, it's an unforced error, really. You know, EG trying to pull off this 4v2. Without minions, the dives are always so risky because you can't get into position before you begin the dive, right? There's nothing to tank it up early. Jojo, again, being pressured. Canyon has just been constantly coming mid here, trying to push Jojo back. ShowMaker already was doing very well in that 1v1, but they want to keep the pressure on. They want to be able to threaten those moves towards sides. And deokdam now with the mythic completed here, as it's rated Dirk on top, and it is Dom1 again starting up the Dragon. The second one should be going their way, uncontested here. Yeah. They're the ones stacking the objectives.
And the problem is that, look, you can see the push already in mid for ShowMaker, but it becomes even more devastating with that tier 1 now down. ShowMaker gets the push in the wave. You can start to see DK creeping that ward, that vision line forward as well, to open up these avenues to attack bottom. So suddenly the fact that that bot lane tower is low becomes very difficult for EG to capitalize on, because they're under constant pressure from ShowMaker, just leaning away from the mid lane and moving down towards that bottom side.
Red buff drops the cross map for Inspired, but I don't think there's a way that Nuguri dies in 2v1 here. Eclipse is done. I don't think you possibly have the damage. Canyon comes around and says, hey, must have been here recently. My red is gone.
There's an interesting interaction actually with Aatrox. I believe with Swifty Boots, you can actually walk out the long way through the Infernal Chains.
Yeah.
So you don't actually have to dodge to the side. So I've been seeing more people do this kind of interesting tech in that matchup. I'm not sure how big of a difference it's going to make in this one, but have been seeing more commonly on a variety of different champions, whether ranged or melee, because it allows you to kind of dodge out in a different way than you would otherwise have to against those Infernal Chains.
The interesting part is Ornn has W or E. Either one can basically bake that ability. Ulti's not quite going to land for Kellin. Inspired's going to be safe. Every ability still up for him, but with all the pressure towards top side, you can see Impact forced to drop the wave. Turret goes down. Nuguri, gigantic here. 144 CS, highest in the game.
Yeah, it's just so punishing. You know, it's hard to not keep going back towards that bot side dive, because Impact was always expected to lose, but you can't lose both sides and still generally win the game, because Inspired now gets tracked through his jungle. He's losing all sort of pressure, all sort of control. With both side lanes now losing, Canyon just keeps walking through mid, but they're looking for Nuguri, who has his ultimate, and Kellin here. They don't have the damage for this.
I don't think it's pretty likely. Yeah, gonna jump back away. Out he goes for Inspired, but they're still pulling the Lucian over. He is on 2 items, has a full rapid fire cannon done. You gotta push out Canyon, who's like, actually, I'll just eat oranges. You're gonna be fine.
But this is the thing, Damwon were just trying to buy time. You had deokdam coming out of base, ShowMaker getting control of mid, and now they're the ones that should have the ultimate advantage as well coming into this, because they still have Canyon's engage tool.
Jojo gonna spot Nuguri, gonna be pushed around, jumps away, and now Canyon ready to play for the smite fight. Damage to the Kellin, force the flash away. ShowMaker has an Ornn ult himself now. Who's gonna win the fight? 90 health. Oh, it's picked up there. Herald goes over, plus the kill. Down goes Inspired with a smite, with a flash, with everything. And Impact's gonna be next. He's gonna run for his life, jumping away, but ShowMaker's on the chase. The ulti, not quite the execute. ShowMaker gets the kill. But guess what? Now it's a 5 versus 3, same as the kill score. Looking for a bit more in the front line there, diving in. deokdam gonna go down, kill goes to Kaori, but he's gonna be stunned. Perfect cleanse, still cannot get away from the front line though. The Bash Brother's gonna find him as he jumps for his life. Blue smite to kite him, and Nuguri gets the kill. And now Vulcan's got nowhere to go. Blast plans for some time, and Summoner teleport will get the Akali to safety. They won't lose everyone, but Vulcan will certainly drop here. A 4-to-1 team fight. They also got the Rift there. DWG KIA are slaughtering, poised to fight for first place.
Massive for DWG. That feels like it was a huge swing for EG. They're trying to fight there. They have the 2-item power spike for Lucian. They wanted to try to find the angle to really get an advantageous fight, but you spent the Ornn ulti trying to chase down Nuguri, and it didn't really matter that he was missing the Aatrox ult. ShowMaker comes in from the side, has such a good angle with that stolen Ornn ulti. They make it look really, really easy, and then, you know, as EG are getting corralled, they realize there's no way to fight this one out, so they just try to dive in, see if they can make something happen.
And it doesn't get any easier for EG now either. You've got Rift Herald available for DK. You've got Dragon available in a minute and a half. I mean, DWG just hold on to this Rift Herald. You try and contest them at Rift Herald. Well, cool. We just place the Rift Herald down in mid lane, take that tier 2, put pressure on towards your base, and again, it just becomes so difficult now for EG to try and do anything on the map without DWG giving them the opportunity to contest them.
Wave clear for Jojopyun's Akali here, 1-1-1. She trails Worlds in Pivotal Station and actually KIA of mid laners in the group stage, but hope we have a bit of a better game here up against DWG. He will knock down this wave and keep his gold up. It's still a 4,500 gold lead. They're at objective bounties. That is how much DWG are winning this game. Still able to be the #1 team in the group, and they are crushing EG early on.
And for EG, I think it's just going to be about trying to find some sort of picks, right? You know, try to hover behind this Ornn, maybe use the Ornn ulti, try to find some sort of a 2v1 or a 3v1 play to really advance the game forward for them. Because they can't really match up in these 1v1s whatsoever now. And DWG going to be dropping the Herald. That'll be the last of the outers falling here for EG. Canyon just doing such a great job shadowing a lot of these solo laners. And now, ShowMaker here. They're trying to look for that pick.
Going pretty well, gonna find the ulti there. You got Inspired coming around as well. They should have the damage, you gotta believe. As he comes around, the auto still landing in. Gets a quick stun. There's the E press, he jumps in for a little bit more, and ShowMaker has the heal back up in a second. Will it matter is the question. just barely make it happen. Now on the bottom side, Canyon will drop as well. EG, signs of life as they force death from DK.
Yeah, EG doing the right thing. They have to just drop waves, except that you're going to make some losses on one lane to try to get something else in the other lanes here. They do lose the mid tier 1, but they get a kill in top, they get a kill in bot. They've got to survive here, though.
A bit much. Bubble has to be cleansed away. deokdam going to stay alive. Bubble, one of the knockups you actually can CC away. It's tagged to a stun.
I think they got to make up their mind, though, for EG here, right? You can see they're considering pushing for that top tier 1, but Dragon is up. I would have much preferred to see the reset coming through from Impact Inspired so they could have contested third Dragon. It felt like with ShowMaker down, with the kills that they gotten on top and bot, this was their moment to buy that time in the game, but they just decided not to.
Yeah, I think the concern is perhaps that they're missing all their ultis. You know, without those ultis, maybe they're not really going to be able to compete in a fight. But I agree, it's going to be very, very tough now. It's a 19-minute soul point here. So we're looking at 24 minutes or so that Damwon can grab that soul. And Kaori and Vulcan very far out here have been spotted now.
Ornn has TP, great pre-up by Kellin, but he cleanses away, needs to land the autos, but he'll get bailed out by himself. Kill comes across and Vulcan will not survive this one. deokdam on the chase down, a big payout.
And now you got Damwon once more with full control over the map. They're going to push in. They're going to get the vision. They might have picked Inspired as well.
Wolf, yeah, Inspired's in a bad spot. No flash. Velo can press E for a second for just a bit of damage reduction, but he's late on it anyway. He was stunned for most of that damage. Blocks almost nothing.
It's starting to fall apart for EG. It had looked good in the early stages, but Damwon have firmly put their foot down, and this Kaori and Vulcan, that bit too overextended, and just immediately Damwon collapsed in mid lane. You even got ShowMaker and Canyon as well coming in from that top side. There's just nowhere to escape when you're that far over.
Exactly, and that's exactly why we saw Kaori try to look for that kill. He tries to go aggressive here, tries to kill off the Renata, because there was no way out with Canyon and ShowMaker behind him, but locked up, stunned up, and burst down. Inspired does get the E off, but it's not really going to do anything for him there. And then again, back to live now. Jojo once more in trouble.
Flashes, he has a blast cone, will get back away, but that is still a summoner spell down. Advantage, Damwon KIA.
Yeah, no flash, no ulti now for Jojo, who is going to be sent back to base here. And they're going to have to find some way to find a fight here in 3.5. That is going to be really their last shot. I don't think there's any chance to come back to find those picks if you give over this early of a Mountain Soul. So for EG, it's going to be about getting out on the map, trying to establish vision around that dragon and finding a winning fight, which is going to be very difficult to do.
Especially when you just don't have control over mid-wave, right? Kaori and Vulcan can't really step up because of deokdam and Kellin. You don't have control over side lanes either, so actually getting onto a position on the map where you can control your jungle, look for picks and not get picked yourself is really hard.
Gale Force forced out of Kaori. Does hold his own flash available, but that is another important cooldown missing. It'll be back up time for the Drake. ShowMaker wants his fight 1v2. Gonna find his knockup, and Inspired just doesn't even press E to take the damage reduction. Just gets completely chunked out. He's gone.
Yeah, I mean, all of Damwon's coming in, so even if he does pop it, it's not going to really do anything for him there. And it's just looking like straight to Baron here for Damwon. This is starting to feel like lights out. EG can look to try to take a swing, see if they can find any sort of an angle to make a play happen here. It's desperation hours now.
Or an ulti in. They know they have no smite, but they're going to hope for some kind of a prayer. In goes Jojo. Looking to find an execute. Going to be smited away cleanly. Up by Canyon. 4v5. Likely to be a win for Damwon, but it's actually a single pick coming across. Jojo's alive. Jumps in with a bailout. Means there is no kill to be had. Renata turns it around. And here comes ShowMaker to do it all that much better. Has the Akali ult. Can't for the target yet. Kaori low. Going to be jumped upon. Flash to safety. And it's not going to be a kill. There's nothing else to pick up. Impact flashes away, but not far enough out.
EG are trying their damnedest, but Damwon are just too far ahead at this stage. With the Baron in their back pocket, they will reset. And this Red Bull Baron power play is about to become very, very large, especially when you look towards the Mountain Dragon in a minute 40 as well.
I mean, Damwon just crushing the game at this point. So far ahead this early on that, you know, potentially after this soul, that could be the game ender here. It's a great Baron call. They get the pick onto Inspired. They go for the kill here. EG had to try something. It's just desperation hours, right? There's no way to play the game out from a normal state. And Jojo gets into the back line, really disrupting things, buying some time for the team, forces the bailout there onto Kellin, but they can't quite burst him down. And then Kaori here, as he steps forward, a little bit of an overchase onto ShowMaker, walking into deokdam, gets punished massively.
And while this is heartbreaking for Evil Genius fans, if you're an LCK fan, this is exactly the form that you want to see Damwon coming into this with. If they want to dethrone JDG, this is the kind of level you want to see them playing with, and they want to be hitting hard against the first seed from the LPL.
Oh, good stun on the front line. Jojo doesn't have a lot he can do. Is able to Shroud to not take any auto attacks, then walks back for some more regen. We get the Baron Siege. We have a Mountain Soul in 40 seconds. 2,600 gold to the Red Bull Baron power play. Damwon looking for inhibitors.
And even if you're not cheering for the LCK, if you're just cheering for more games between Damwon and JDG, they need to win this, obviously, for that tiebreaker. EG looking for a pick now.
Double combo, they want to burst him across. Nuguri will drop a 1-for-0, and that's going to be timed perfectly. But, jeez, the ulti means a kill. Goodbye to Vulcan.
I mean, that is the power of the hostile takeover against auto attackers. Bel'Veth is an auto attack champ. He just chops him down.
We got round 2. Inspire takes a couple auto attacks there from deokdam. And we know ShowMaker can engage with the Ornn himself, but if there's ever a time, it's EG having to go for broke right now. Front line of Canyon. Inspire can't find his way in, but a handshake gets him out of the shroud, and Jojo's gonna die. He's been stunned, and he's gonna die. Kill goes over to the AD carry, and now they're going for the whole rest of it. Inspire doesn't have a good way out. Ulti, he will dodge away from, but round 2, Canyon looking for the slow, looking for the stun, and ShowMaker's already got one. Over the wall goes Inspired, and will he even live is the question. Canyon, ulti, finds it, yet again, the jungle dip is in, 1, 2, and 7.
And that feels like it's just going to be the game. Damwon are in front of the base. They've got the Baron buff still available for the next few seconds. They just need to keep these 2 minion waves alive, and they can go for it.
They want Mountain Soul, they can go for it instead. Right now, they have pushed in the mid wave, and since Baron buff is ending this moment, to go Shirelius to run away and claim Mountain Soul. Gold lead is 10,000, and it's going to get even worse.
Yeah, no need to take any sort of a risk here at this point. Just grab the soul, secure the victory. They also have so much gold in pocket when you're looking, over 2,000 there on ShowMaker, a good 1,500 on deokdam, so good to be able to spend all that up. But EG, they've got to look for these sorts of picks. It is the knock-up into the double bubble. The ultimate comes through from Nami. The ultimate comes through from Ornn. They're able to burst down those kills, but look at the auto attack damage. He gets Infernal Chains back into his team and just beat down.
I mean, Kaori ended up cleansing that super late as well. Nami was already gone sushi before he managed to get away from that one. And look, for EG, this was do or die. You knew the Mountain Soul was going to be coming up, but unfortunately, just couldn't quite get into a position to carry. deokdam is safe. ShowMaker is doing so much work at this stage. And Damwon looking poised to close this game out.
Needs the chase down, good ult by Canyon. Because that's the whole time. Love his build, by the way, bombies into Warmogs. I absolutely love early Warmogs on tank junglers because it means that you are full health between every fight and just play your job again. And you're full mana by walking in the jungle for 5 seconds. So you are permanent uptime on literally everything. Love this build. He's got a Sunfire Aegis up now, but I think Canyon's build actually really is incredible, and more junglers should build exactly like him.
I mean, we're seeing a lot more junglers just delaying their mythic on tanks. We're seeing a lot more Anathema's rush as well, which I think can be quite powerful. Also, especially against those one carry teams, or even just for the negative tenacity. So more and more people, I feel like, trying these different builds and trying to delay their mythic on tanks because people just aren't, I think, finding it as effective anymore these days.
Walking up, looking for another turret to kill. Baron gone. Mountain Soul up makes them feel very safe, and Jojopyun does not have lethal threat here. No handshake, but the turret's going to drop. He wants XP from what he can. He's got Inspired behind him to back up if there was a dive, but there isn't one. Canyon going to be happy to walk up front line. Lose the passive, doesn't care.
One small bright spot for EG is that the IE is completed now for Kaori. It's kind of all eggs in the Kaori basket, but punching through the Mountain Soul when you're down over 10K is going to be so incredibly difficult here. And Damwon pushing all 3 waves in, trying to play the map, just trying to close out this game. Really, really stock standard stuff here. Not allowing EG to find any sort of a window in.
Jojo spotted, though. He's got the Shroud, who would have to eat backwards. Let's get reinforcements. Scott comes across. This is the play. All the ulti's coming across. Will there be a kill? deokdam gets his first kill, and they're going to get Inspired next. The shield bow simply too good. A double kill through for the Draven. And now it is a 5v3. They never even needed the Aatrox.
I mean, it's an easy pickup there for Damwon, and they will march into the base. Kaori
flashing for the stun. He preempts it, beautifully aimed. And another kill is coming across. Vulcan can run back to his base. Sure, he'll live a tidal wave. Buys a bit of time. He flashed to save the impact, and watch as the base turns to rubble. Evil Geniuses will fall to 1-5. They will tie for 3rd, 4th in the group. DWG KIA can fight for first. Yet another LCK team getting to the group stage without a sweat at all. They go for the final kills on the Nexus. onto the fountain. He's a bit too tanky for it. Nexus will fall. Damwon KIA in 28 minutes. Maybe find a single extra kill, knock down the Nexus.
Really nice game from Damwon overall. Some bright spots for EG in the early moments. You know, getting the kill in that 2v2 bot lane, being able to push that ahead with some clever pathing and some good patience from Inspired. But as soon as that bot lane dive went wrong, it felt like the game was completely out of control. deokdam finishing with 9 kills after being put down that much in the early levels. Impact was always going to struggle in that top lane matchup, but it was supposed to be EG, you know, getting something done on the other side of the map to hopefully make that worthwhile. But at the end of the day, the levels are just too different between these two teams. I think Damwon really showcasing just how strong they are. This will be the final game, unfortunately, for Evil Geniuses here at Worlds. We're able to pick up 1 win today, a dominant one over G2, finally snapped that losing streak. So something to be happy about for them, but it is Damwon that are going to be challenging for the top of the group, and it's EG whose time is done.
And I think, again, we're seeing how good Damwon are when it comes towards that early objective control, right? 100% first tower rate so far at Worlds. Like, they only just lost out in the first blood percent in this game, but they're still, like, tied for the most dragons per game. They were tied for the most Rift Herald per game percent, I should say, coming into the start of the day as well. Like, they've been so good at understanding how they can push these games forward, even when they start off behind like they did this game.
And we'll see him again. We'll see him fighting for first place up against DWG. That is going to be exciting. Stay tuned for Game 6 and maybe Game 7. Now, while we prepare an Evil Geniuses interview, we are breaking down this game at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you so much, Freak. And what a wonderfully warm reception from our audience here in New York City for EG as they take their final bow here on the world stage. While it did not end in victory, they can be proud of what they put out onto the stage and how they turned things around a bit in the second week, particularly considering everything that led up to them coming to this World Tournament. First minutes here looked great, Chronicler.
I thought they were going to do it. I really was, after the amount of bot lane dominance that they were able to found, thought that that was going to be their angle into the game, but when it came to mid-game, they just couldn't keep up.
Yeah, it came down to that charge dive that they had bot that was kind of messed up. I mean, we also saw a lot of hallmarks from Damwon KIA here. Canyon already shadowing lane at like just before 4 minutes before that bot lane dive went through. Them making sure that they're covering objectives like Rift Herald, knowing how important it is for the Bel'Veth to pick that up because she just can take over the entire side of the map, like I said before. So yeah, I mean, it's another game that I think EG are going to definitely want back in terms of the fact that they definitely should feel like they did have control in this game, and then it was execution, more execution-based than composition-based.
Yeah, and it's just a good experience overall, simply because of the points that you made. Being able to cover the dives, I think, was just a good understanding, great understanding from Canyon to be there at the right times, and that has been the story throughout this group stage, was just Canyon, Kanavi, strong junglers being able to get gold within themselves, sure, but then be able to cover for their lanes and then just snowball it from that point.
And to me, the biggest thing that makes Damwon is specifically how willing they are to flex, more so than any other team. We just got off a game of Nuguri single-handedly carrying on the Sejuani, and then they're still willing to flex it, depending on what picks they can get. We've seen them do this with the Talia as well, and I think that makes them a team that is very hard to deal with and very hard to prep for, because you never really know what you're getting.
And we'll get more from Damwon as we go on throughout the tournament for Evil Geniuses. I mean, just as you kind of mentioned at the very top, Dash, it's important to talk about the story that they had, the dominance that they had, and then, of course, the restructuring during playoffs. For Kaori to come in under those circumstances as an academy player.
Yo, can we just give it up for Kaori?
Yes.
I mean, again, this guy only played in finals a weekend domestically, jumping up from academy to then to the world stage, picking up a win, to putting on performances, moving around the map confidently on the Lucian pick like he did. It's something to be lauded. It's something to be applauded. And speaking of applause, let's go ahead and join Shox on stage with Jojopyun for our Verizon post-game interview.
Thank you very much. He's gotten some good cheers already, so hopefully that's going to keep going. Jojo, first off, why didn't you pick Singed?
I mean, I wanted to, but this game counted for Damwon, so it'd be kind of messed up if I just, you know, picked it. So I really wanted to, though. I even asked the players and the coaches, can I pick it? But yeah, we decided not to.
I think that's nice that you made that consideration for Damwon anyway. Now, unfortunately, this was your last game at Worlds. How do you look back at everything overall and maybe what could have gone better?
I mean, I definitely think a lot of the first few games were winnable for sure. I think I messed up and we made some big mistakes, but I definitely think if we won that, there would be a big chance that we would have made it out. But, you know, we messed up, it happens. But I think we all learned a lot, so yeah.
When it comes to taking like the bigger picture and looking at this whole year you guys have had, which had a lot of ups as well, how would you look back at everything from the big picture?
I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about everything, honestly, and seeing all the fans just everywhere and supporting us. It feels really good. But, I mean, I think we could have shown much better. I mean, it definitely sucks that we only showed this, but, you know, we have next year too, at least, so yeah.
You have many years, and I gotta say, I'm sad this is the circumstances in which we have our first interview together, because I've loved seeing kind of your moves as well, not just on the Rift, but also on social media, just embracing everything and becoming kind of an icon in the NA community so quickly. So how do you look back on your year personally, and what would you like to say to the fans?
I mean, going back to this year was kind of crazy. Obviously, I didn't expect to win Spring. That was pretty crazy. And also, coming to Worlds is pretty hard. Even with the sub ADC, and he played really well for a sub, so he really stepped it up, so that's good. And also the fans, I mean, they make it so much more fun. You can even hear them through the headphones and everything while we're playing, so it really makes the game much more enjoyable.
Yeah, they've been there with you every step of the way. Just because of your Twitter game, I do have to ask, you did only win one, but you took down EU with you, so does that bring you any type of joy?
I mean, it definitely felt good, but after that game, I really wanted G2 to win so we can still make it, but, you know, they didn't win, so that sucks, but, I mean, yeah, we beat EU we beat G2 for the first time. I mean, it felt pretty good, but it would feel even better if we made it past here, but still, you know.
A little bit sweet, a little bit sweet. Okay, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say, or you good?
Thank you to all the fans supporting us. Thank you.
Awesome. Fantastic. I believe we'll be kicking it over to a break because we have one more game left, which is Damwon up versus JDG, so be right back.
Gonna land, duck them. He's low. First blood for EG. He's burning, but he's bailing out. First blood to Kaori. Up by Canyon, 4v5. Likely to be a win for Damwon, but it's actually a single pick coming across. Jojo's alive. Jumps in with a bailout. Means there is no kill to be had. Renata turns it around. And they will march into the base. Kaori flashing for the stun. He preempts it, beautifully aimed. And another kill is coming across. Vulcan can run back to his base. Sure, he'll live a tidal wave. Buys a bit of time. He flashes to save the impact, and watch as the base turns to rubble. Eagle geniuses will fall to 1 and 5.